downtown St. Louis. The weather is sponsored by S&L Coin. I'm Debbie Monterey, KMOX News.
S&L Coin. We buy gold and silver coins, silver and gold jewelry. Also buying gold-filled and silver plates. Before you sell, call S&L. 314-544-3600. 314-544-3600. S&L Coin.
This is the Gashouse Gang on 104.1 FM KMOX. Sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin comfort dealer. Now, the Gashouse Gang on KMOX.
Bernie Miklasz and Chris Ranji today on this Thursday. Hello, and thank you for being with us yet again for the Gashouse Gang. 10 to 1, noon to 1 every weekday on 104.1 FM KMOX. The Cardinals have apparently they have decided to keep their entire coaching staff around with a couple of additions. We will get into that. We also will talk a little bit about the Blues, who play the Vancouver Canucks and have lost 5 straight games. The Blues have, not Vancouver. The Blues have lost 5 in a row. And we start things off, Bernie Miklasz and Chris Ranji today. And Bernie, here's what I think. You and I should never make any sort of World Series predictions ever again, because as soon as the Dodgers won that 18-inning game a couple of nights ago, you and I both said, oh, yeah, this thing's just about done now. L.A. will wrap this thing up post-haste. They will not, apparently. We're at least going to Game 6, and the Blue Jays have a chance to finish it up tomorrow.
I thought after that 18-inning marathon and the heartbreaking fashion of the Jays lost it. I thought they were cooked. I did. I would probably feel the same way if the same thing we could go back in time. I'd feel the same way. But you know what I think it comes down to, and I'm speaking for myself, and I'm probably speaking for you. But generally, in this matchup, I think we've underestimated Toronto the entire time, because if you look at the regular season, they won more games than the Dodgers. This was a team that had more comeback wins than anybody in the majors. This is a team that had the best home field record than anybody in the majors. This is a team that chased a good Yankees team down after trailing the Yankees by 8 games in the American League East. There's a relentlessness about them. They're really, really smart. I think their pitching is underrated. They have a lot of grinding players. They also have some superstars. I think they play good defense. I think that this is, and I will speak for myself here because I'm going to be very critical of myself. I think it's as easy to just get all swept up in the glamour and the payroll and the aura of the Dodgers. And I think it caused me to not give Toronto enough credit for how good they really are.
The thing about a team like the Dodgers is they're built for both the regular season and postseason. But if you give a team like that, with that kind of talent, 162 games, they're gonna finish with close to 100 wins. That's the nature of baseball. That's going to happen in a shorter series, a best of 5, even a best of 7. A few breaks go the other way, and you lose that series. We have seen 110 win teams. Wasn't it the Seattle Mariners from about 20 years ago that won?
Yeah.
Something like 110, 112 games, got bounced right away in the division series. That doesn't mean they weren't the best team in baseball at the time. It just means that at that moment in a short series, they lost. So, look, I think that going into the playoffs, my philosophy has always been this. And again, I realize it is not my money that I am spending, but a team should do everything they possibly can to clear up or to plug as many holes as they might have on their roster so that when they go into the playoffs, there's less doubt. It doesn't mean there's no doubt. It just means that there is more margin of error for you to fail. And I don't think enough teams approach the postseason like that. They say, hey, this is a good regular season team. We put together this really good regular season team, so we know we're going to make the playoffs. It's just all we have to do is get to the postseason. And once we get there, then it's about getting some luck or having the bounces go your way. And while that is true a lot of times, it's not everything, So, I mean, you're right. We get caught up in how good the Dodgers are and the superstars and Mookie Betts and Shohei Ohtani and Freddie Freeman and Clayton Kershaw and, Yamamoto and guys like that, because they are superstars. But they are also set up very well once they get to the postseason, but nothing is guaranteed once you get there, Bernie.
And where I feel particularly stupid is getting caught up with the Dodgers, who are a great team, by the way. So it's not like anybody's nuts for thinking they were going to win the World Series. But we know that the Dodgers had a glaring weakness and a really, really important weakness. Your bullpen. I mean, when you talk about postseason baseball and close games, and you have a bullpen that is atrocious as theirs is, and granted, that bullpen came through in a huge way in Game 3, the 18-inning game. All right. That was the outlier, though. That wasn't the reality. The Dodgers bullpen just completely fell apart during the season. They've had injuries. They got about $85 million in reliever salaries not even on the World Series roster because of injuries or bad performances. This is a really bad bullpen. And in the three losses in this series, the Dodgers bullpen has got like an 8.38 ERA. I mean, they were a liability in Game 4. They were a liability last night. And the Toronto relievers are unheralded, but they're pretty damn solid, and they really are. And then the other thing I didn't expect are, the Blue Jays being able to win 2 in a row out there when it looked like they were in serious trouble, when they didn't have George Springer, who's a great postseason player. And the other thing, to use like a horse racing term, if going into Game 4 and Game 5, everything's up for grabs. All right, what exacta combination would you take? Would you take Ohtani and Snell, or would you take Bieber and Yasavage? I think most people probably would take Ohtani and Snell.
Of course.
But in the last 2 nights, Bieber and Yasavage, the kid that was the best rookie pitching performance in the history of baseball in a World Series, those 2 guys over 2 nights pitched to a 1.45 ERA, and Ohtani and Snell pitched to a 6.4 ERA. So that's to your point about, listen, we think we know how it'll play out. A lot of it has to do with the regular season stuff. It's a whole new season in the postseason, and that's how an Ohtani and a Snell on back-to-back nights can get beat up pretty good, when realistically that shouldn't happen. But it's baseball, and it does happen.
Well, Trey Savage, who punched out 12 last night through 7, that dude didn't even make it to the big league roster until September 15th.
Right.
So why would you bet on that? Why would you say, okay, this guy in a massive World Series, a pivotal game, is going to do what he did last night? You just wouldn't predict that. You would say, yeah, I'll take Blake Snell 10 times out of 10. And if the other guy beats you, then that is one of those literal tip your cap moments. You just say, okay, well, you did it, kid. 22 years old. He had 3 games pitched before he even got to the postseason, and that's what he does. You never would have predicted that was going to happen at the end of September.
And before, I love this too, because there was people, and I understand this. I'm not taking a shot. People were talking about, yeah, I mean, that kid's really impressive, but he hasn't pitched an inning on the road in the postseason. And wow, during the regular season, he actually pitched 4 innings on the road. So he's not used to this setting. He's not used to this environment. Well, I think maybe he was pretty comfortable. Yeah, he is really, really good. And but the other thing is that Dodgers offense. If you look around, there are a lot of old players in that lineup, and those old dudes are not hitting. And right. Will Smith is not hitting. And they're playing lousy defense. And I mean, there's a lot of fundamental breakdowns. So I think the Dodgers are rattled. Now, let's go back the other way for a second, and it'll be a quick second. All they have to do to kind of settle everything down, and it doesn't mean they're going to win the World Series, but they have their best starting pitcher going in Game 6. Yamamoto has been phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. All they got to do is win that game. I'm not saying they will, but if you want to say, well, how do they recover? He can stabilize things quickly if he's on point. And then in Game 7, it's kind of like, well, both managers will throw every pitcher they can out there and use everybody. And then that's one of those, I'm not going to say it's a coin flip game, but it's up for grabs.
Toronto is, they're playing at home. The Blue Jays are going to play at home for the next couple of nights. And I would still, even though they have the home field advantage for Game 7, if it happens, I would not want to let it get to 7.
Right.
I wouldn't want to play around with that. I mean, they are still very, very good. And a game 7 is a game 7. They will be at home, but it's just kind of one of those things where you don't want to open the door anymore for LA if you don't have to. It's I just would
totally
not want to
agree.
play around with that.
And the other thing about Toronto, which I did know about, but didn't really think about too much. If you just look at their regular season stats, and the reason I'm talking regular season stats is because their postseason stats reflect it. This is such a smart team in terms of hitting approach. They had the lowest strikeout rate in the majors this year. They had the number 1 contact rate in the majors this year, the second lowest swing and miss rate. They had the lowest rate of called strikes, 7th lowest chase rate. They swing at a very high percentage of pitches in the strike zone. They just know what they're doing. They have a plan, and they're really good at executing the plan. Their plate discipline and putting the ball in play and grinding out at bats is phenomenal. That's a really big thing. That's a very, very important attribute to have at this time of year, where you're not swinging and missing and flailing around.
Right.
The Dodgers were swinging for home runs. Dave Roberts even said that the last 2 nights. Our guys are kind of in between. Do I try to put the ball in play? Do we swing for home runs? He said, I think we're trying to swing for home runs. Toronto's not trying to do that. They're trying to do what they've done all year, and I admire that.
And it kind of does, if you've got good enough hitters and you're making good contact, the ball's going to leave the yard. So it's not like you have to try to hit home runs. But there is a knowledge that teams in the postseason who do mash a lot, they end up winning a lot.
Yeah.
And I know that they're all conscious of that, even though I don't like to use the term small ball, but I think that there are times you're going to have to put a little something together, manufacture a run, for lack of a better word or lack of a better term. But still, the way to win, even in the postseason, is to pitch really well and to give a little bit of power. Those are just 2 really big ways to advance. So,
but I agree. But yet Toronto does have power.
They do.
But they do the other. They do the other style of game very well. As in addition to having the power, it's not like the Blue Jays are devoid of power. We've seen that. What have they hit this postseason? They've hit a bunch of home runs, and they start the game last night. 3 pitches, 2 home runs. I mean, which totally took that crowd out of it.
Yes, then there you go. I mean, you get off to an early lead and you do it with power. You're absolutely right. And if LA does that tomorrow night, if they score early, that could be really tough for Toronto to come back from. Saliga Heating and Cooling brings you this show, SaligaHeatingandCooling.com. Got Bernie Miklas with me and Chris Ranji. We did get a little bit of news. I don't think there's any real surprise here, but Katie Wu of The Athletic earlier today reporting that the Cardinals are expecting to retain their entire coaching staff with some additions. And even though it's not like unpredictable, we kind of had an idea this was going to happen. Still, it looks like it is. We'll get Bernie's thoughts on that when we come back on KMOX.
Because we have lawyers in all 50 states, I see lots of lawyers' ads. Most seem to be bragging on results, but are they true or misleading? For example, in some cases, a firm may try a case even though the at-fault party has no lawyer, then brag in the ad about their results. My son Matt got one for nearly $50 million, but we never collected one dime. Some lawyers may say they got a result even though they were sitting second chair at a firm like mine, and even though they had little to do with it. Happens all the time. All that glitters is not gold. At Morgan & Morgan, our results are real. Visit forthepeople.com and go to settlements and verdicts to see for yourself what your case may be worth before you hire a law firm. Do your homework. Fact check. It's easy and too important not to. Morgan & Morgan, forthepeople.com.
Injured? Dial #law or visit forthepeople.com for an office near you. Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at ethos.com/radio. That's ethos.com/radio.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm, and Chuck McDowell, definitely not an attorney. This is Chuck. Do you feel stupid for buying a timeshare? Don't. It's not your fault. You were most likely told you could rent it, and it was a great financial investment. And the deal was available today only. If this happened to you, contact your resort or Wesley Financial Group for help today.
Call Wesley now for your free exit information kit. 800-242-3131. 800-242-3131.
Attention! Have you racked up $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is notifying consumers about significant debt relief options currently being made available to help those with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of credit card debt for those who qualify. You don't need to declare bankruptcy or take out a consolidation loan, and you may only have to pay back a fraction of what you owe, even if you have bad credit. National Debt Relief has already reduced the credit card debt for more than 550,000 consumers. So don't wait. If you owe $10,000, $20,000, or even $100,000 in credit card debt, you can now take advantage of this financial debt relief as the cost of living continues to skyrocket. To check what debt reduction you may qualify for, call 800-848-2299. 800-848-2299. Again, that's 800-848-2299.
For residential and commercial heating repairs, service, maintenance, or installation, contact Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Installation. With over 50 years of HVAC service, get in your comfort zone this winter. Visit aircomfortservice.com. That's aircomfortservice.com.
This is Megan Lynch. 250 doctors go to Ophthalmology Associates. That's why I trust them. Ophthalmology Associates, 314-966-5000 or youridoc.com.
News, talk, cars. 104.1 FM KMOX.
Gashouse Gang, Bernie Miklas is here, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin dealer. I'm Chris Ranji, and we're with you until 1 o'clock today. Mike Farron from MLB Network Radio will be with us at 12:30. We'll talk about the World Series and more with him. But Bernie, Katie Wu from The Athletic earlier today, I mentioned this a couple of minutes ago, but she had reported that the Cardinals, and again, this is not really a surprise, but it gives a little more clarity, I think, as to what's about to happen here with the team going into next year. But she reports that the entirety of last year's coaching staff is set to return under Oliver Marmol. A couple of different changes, though. Packy Elkins, who was the game planning coach, and the assistant pitching coach, Dean Kiefer, is that right? Kiefer? I'm not familiar with him, but he is going to transition to more of a strategist role. Also, they are expected to hire a new assistant pitching coach and an assistant hitting coach. So it's not as if that nobody's getting fired. Basically, what's happening here is nobody is being fired, and they are planning to add to the organization. Furthermore, she says that another series of staff changes will occur throughout the organization, which is more of a addition kind of situation where they are adding to the structural, the foundational level that we are always talking about, that this Cardinals team has to get a lot better at that. So expanding in the pro scouting department. There's going to be a director of hitting and an international scouting director. There are going to be multiple support roles that are going to be added as well. So this is a very big deal, and I wouldn't call it a departure, really, from what the Cardinals have been doing. It's just a lot of extra stuff the Cardinals are going to be doing that they have not been doing before. We know that they have had some real difficulty in drafting and developing and graduating players to the big league level over the last several years. There have been a couple of exceptions, obviously, but this team does not and has not done it lately the way they have been doing it in the past. And we were able to reestablish with Bernie Miklasz here. And Bernie, we're talking about the coaching staff coming back from next year or for next year, and how this is going to pretty much be the same coaching staff from 2025. And that's going to upset some Cardinals fans because they think there should be some massive changes. Well, we knew there weren't going to be. And I think that people probably should prepare themselves for that at least being the same next year. Again, I have no problem with bringing everybody back from 2025.
Well, I don't either. I think Chaim Bloom, who is in charge of remaking this organization, he liked what he saw of Marmol and the coaching staff in 2025. And he wants to take a fuller look because the difference being there's clarity because Chaim Bloom is the boss. There's not two bosses. Yeah. Chaim Bloom can work more directly with this group, but he likes how they handled this past season, as he should have, because they had a terrible assignment and they made the best of it. But what fans need to understand is it doesn't mean that Ali Marmol and this coaching staff, they're safe for the next 3 or 4 years. You know, his contract's up after next season. I was talking to a friend of mine who was upset that he hasn't entirely cleaned out the front office. And I'm just trying to tell people that, look, just because someone worked for John Mozeliak, it doesn't mean that they're awful at their jobs. You know, sometimes we all have bosses. If we get a new boss, the new boss sees things in us that maybe the old boss didn't.
That's right.
Chaim Bloom wants to be fair to people. He sees some real talent in that organization as far as leadership. What, he should fire Randy Flores because John Mozeliak fired him or hired him? I mean, is that what we want? If you've got the John Mozeliak taint, you got to go. That's childish and it's stupid. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So, Chaim Bloom wants to evaluate this manager and that staff the entire season as their direct supervisor would and should. I mean, it makes all the sense in the world. There is no reason to swap out everybody now when you're entering a rebuild and, you know, a year from now, everything's up in the air again anyway.
You know, I think that's a really good point, what you bring up about just because somebody worked for a front office that you deem to be not particularly good, or a president of baseball operations that you as a fan may not think was very good at his job. I would disagree with that. But let's say you don't think he was. And then you say, well, why would you keep anybody around from that staff? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because even in the worst organizations, in any sport, there are good, talented people within those organizations. They may be miscast. They may just be working with a bunch of dopes, and they have no opportunity to prove how good and smart they are because they're in a bad organization. I remember when I was working White Sox games years ago, and this is before Kansas City ended up winning a World Series, I had people, you know, Sox fans who would say, why would you ever get anybody from the Kansas City Royals organization? Like, what are you talking about? Zach Greinke came from the Royals organization. Does that mean he's no good? Just because by virtue of him being with Kansas City? Of course he's good. You know, so I think that when people make blanket statements about entire front offices, entire rosters or organizations and say that guy's no good because he worked here, that's really foolhardy to me.
And people are talking, they have no base of knowledge about each individual front office guys or women, their individual strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
They have no idea how those jobs were assimilated, what orders they got. Chaim Bloom, and I talked to him about this, he thinks there's a lot of talented people in that front office, and he wasn't going to rush into premature decisions and just start dumping people to dump people. I really like Bloom, and, you know, I've already noticed, like, people are annoyed, you know, because I expressed my admiration of how he's going about this, but I am. And the one thing I like about it is he's not giving in to any kind of pressure, like to score cheap points so the fans will like him. Well, I'll throw this guy over the side. I'll fire this guy. I'm going to make him happy. I'll make the media happy. No, he's doing what he thinks is best, and he was empowered to do so. You don't hire him unless you give him full authority to make these kinds of decisions. And he's not going to make willy-nilly, hasty, well, I'm going to do it to play to the public type decisions.
Cardinals,
He's got too much integrity for that. I'm sorry, man.
It's okay. They're just not in position to be doing window dressing stuff.
Right.
Just eyewash. Cardinals don't need eyewash. They need results. They need prudent decisions that will pay off down the road. This is not a fix everything in one off-season situation, because if that's what you're waiting for, that is not going to happen. Bernie Miklasz.
And if he does change a manager, I just want people to know. See, people need to start to accept the way things are. If he does fire or choose to replace Ollie Marmol after next season, he will pick his own manager.
Right.
He's not going to take a media poll or a fan poll.
That's correct.
He's got a list of people, because all front office guys have a list of candidates if they need him. He will pick his own guy. He's not going to pick a former Cardinal because he thinks it'll be a popular choice.
Gashouse Gang is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, SaligaHeatingandCooling.com. Bernie Miklasz, Chris Ranji. We'll talk to Mike Farron from MLB Network Radio when we come back, and we'll get his thoughts on Albert Pujols, who appears to be the front runner to be the Padres' next manager. We'll talk World Series with him as well. That's all coming up. But want you to know that coming up December 1st, so it is about a month away, FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, will be available live, ready for you to place your bets on your favorite teams and all your favorite sports. Great time, too, because football, basketball, hockey are all going on at that time. And FanDuel gives you tons of ways to get in on the action, like betting individual games, like bet the spread, straight up winner, money line. You can do that. You can bet the team total for the game, or futures if you like betting on MVP race or coach of the year, rookie of the year, whatever. You can do that too. And live betting on FanDuel, whole lot of fun. As you're watching a game, you can predict who you think will score the next touchdown or the touchdown after that. And all you have to do right now is download the FanDuel app from FanDuel.com/Missouri and get used to it, because in about a month, it will be available to use in Missouri. See for yourself why FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. FanDuel, play your game. 21 and over and present in Missouri. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Hey guys, Dave Glover here for the Dave Glover Show. So, what is my show? My show is 4 different people living 4 different lives, all coming together every day between 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. to talk about life, actual life, not so much headlines or did you see what Trump did today or XYZ. Never predictable, because I never know what I'm going to talk about from one segment to the next. So it truly is unique and unpredictable. Join us.
104.1 FM, KMOX. Now, KMOX weather from the Saliga Heating and Cooling Weather Desk.
Could not be better. 55 degrees and beautiful. Sunny out there. The high today will be 58. Low tonight of 41.
This report is sponsored by Overhead Door Company of St. Louis.
If you need a new garage door, this could be your lucky day. Entries are now open for the $5,000 sweepstakes at Overhead Door Company of St. Louis. A winner will be chosen at random to receive $5,000 towards new garage doors, openers, or front entry doors of their choice. Enter now at overheaddoorsstlouis.com.
If you're one of the millions of Americans behind on your taxes, if you're afraid to open your mail because IRS collection letters could be coming, listen carefully. The IRS is cracking down, taking paychecks, freezing bank accounts, revoking passports. That's a fact. But here's what most people don't know. There are official tax relief programs designed to help struggling taxpayers. Programs that could save you thousands if you qualify. No one knows these programs better than the experts at Optima Tax Relief. Optima's award-winning team will fight to protect your paycheck, your passport, and your property. Their tax attorneys and licensed tax professionals will work tirelessly to get you the best deal possible with the IRS. Every day, penalties and interest keep piling up, so don't wait. Call Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-348-0269. 800-348-0269. 800-348-0269.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Hey, St. Louis, this is Ben Barnett, board-certified master arborist with Timberline Professional Tree Care. In my nearly 30 years in the industry, I've seen firsthand what damage falling trees can do to your property. The sad thing is that most trees that fail have defects that can be identified by a well-trained certified arborist. At Timberline, we have 7 ISA certified arborists, 3 of which have gone through extensive training and testing to become tree risk assessment qualified. Our track certified arborists can perform a thorough assessment of your tree and provide mitigation options for your peace of mind. If there's nothing wrong with your tree, we will let you know that it poses a low risk of failure. If it needs to be removed, we'll tell you in a detailed written report. It's all about honesty and integrity here at Timberline Professional Tree Care. So call us today to get a tree risk assessment scheduled, 636-479-7475, or contact us through our website at stltreecare.com.
Are you an HR manager, business owner, or leader looking to retain your best people? Nearly 1 in 4 employees is caring for an aging loved one, a challenge that often leads to distraction, absenteeism, and costly turnover. The CARES program from Age Smart Community Resources connects your employees to expert caregiver support, helping them stay focused and productive at work. Discover how CARES can boost retention, improve ROI, and cut costs for your business. Visit hsmart.org or call 618-222-2561. Proudly serving 7 counties in Southwest Illinois.
Glover here for my friends at Cantor Injury Law. Cantor is local, and we're here doing the work every day. We're right here in St. Louis, and we're ready to fight for you. CantorInjuryLaw.com or call 314-628-9999.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be solely based on advertisements.
Now back to the Gashouse Gang, sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling on 104.1 FM KMOX.
The Gashouse Gang with Bernie Miklas is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin dealer. Bernie and Chris Ranji today until 1 o'clock. World Series is getting ready for Game 6, which will be tomorrow night, and then a potential Game 7 on Saturday. And Toronto leads that series 3-2. So it could be over tomorrow night. And joining us now on the Gashouse Gang is Mike Farron with MLB Network Radio, and Mike joins the show. Good afternoon, Michael. How are you?
Oh, boys, how are we looking today?
Hey, man, we're getting ready for a Game 6 here. I love a Game 6. I talk about it all the time. I love the uncertainty of it. You'll either have a champion tonight or you'll just be getting ready for a Game 7. And as Toronto has taken the lead and brought it back home, Bernie and I were talking the other day after that 18-inning game that, this is over. Dodgers are about to win this thing. And now look at what Toronto's doing.
Yeah, look at the Dodgers' history in losing 18-inning Game 3s, right? It hasn't gone so well afterwards. They lost it in 2018, too. Lost that World Series in 5. Listen, I think Toronto, because they have some very non-famous offensive pieces and some secondary bullpen pieces that nobody knows, I don't think that they probably got the respect that they deserved over the course of the season. Remember, they finished tied for the best record in the American League and were the top seed by virtue of the tiebreaker with the Yankees. And listen, I don't want to make this sound like I'm pointing fingers. I was skeptical that this offense was good enough through most of the year, right? I was skeptical that this bullpen was going to be good enough to keep them afloat in the postseason. I didn't know what their rotation was going to look like. Like, I'm one of the biggest Trey Savage fans that you will see. Like, I thought that was the steal of the draft last year when they got him. There's no way I expected Trey Savage, a year out from being drafted out of East Carolina to be pitching like maybe the greatest rookie performance ever in World Series history. So, there's a lot of things that they have done that have defied expectations, even for those of us that have followed this team closely. But they are a good team. And the things that they do well, they do really, really well. And right now they have married that with a Dodger offense that cannot get out of its own way to be able to run a lead and be a win away from winning the World Series championship.
Mike, Bernie Miklas, man, always great to have you on here. I wanted to ask you about Toronto. Listen, I mostly watch National League ball. I admit I didn't watch a ton of Blue Jays games this year, so I underestimated them. But looking at their stuff, and we were talking about this a few minutes ago, their hitting approach, their contact skills, their plate discipline, the way they grinded bats, what we're seeing in the postseason is an extension of who they were during the regular season. And you watch all of these teams in terms of quality at bats. How many do you see many teams in the major leagues that are better than these guys in terms of their hitting philosophy and implementing it?
Yeah, I mean, I think, listen, I don't think they're all that dissimilar from a lot of the champions that we've had over the last decade. In fact, their offense to me mirrors most closely the Astros teams in like 17, 18, and 19. Those were, now granted, the Blue Jays, as far as we know, don't have the benefit of a trash can being banged on to help them out. But those were teams that did not strike out and hit for power. And that's what the Toronto team does. They have power, whether it's doubles or homers, and they don't strike out. And one of the reasons they don't strike out is I would actually disagree a little bit. I don't find them to be a particularly grindy group. In fact, if you look at them last night, the first time through the order against Blake Snell, who's known for walking the farm, right? Every single hitter in that lineup swung at the first or second pitch. So one of the reasons they don't strike out is something that was an old Astros philosophy that had them go from a big strikeout team when they first made the playoffs in 2015 to this really good offensive club that they had in 17, 18, 19, is don't let the first good one go by. And that's what I think they're really good at. So they're a little bit more aggressive early in the count. And then I also think one of the things that they have done is something that a lot of teams like to mirror, in that they have kind of shelved the let's only get off our A swing talk and let's make sure that we have a B and a C swing, right, based on situation. So I think that's something that they do very well. They are not afraid to punch a ball the other way. They're not trying to get off an extra base hit swing all the time. They're going to try and move the ball forward. And I don't think that they're the only team that does that as well. So I think that's another important part of what they do as a group, is that they have been able to make those adjustments. But I do not think that they are overly unique in any way, other than to say that they were the team with the lowest strikeout rate in the big leagues during the course of the season. But a lot of it is because they're aggressive early in the count. They put it in play. And listen, they're scoring a huge percentage of their runs via the home run in the postseason. It's almost 50%, which, again, power plays.
Let me, because you brought up the Astros, this made me think of something, because they are one of the teams in the last dozen years that has won multiple World Series. There are only two of them, and it's the Dodgers and the Astros. And if the Blue Jays win this series, it will be 10 of the last 12 World Series different winners. So 10 different teams will have won the World Series in the last 12 years. Seems like a lot of parity to me. So I bring that up to preface the conversation about the lockout coming up and how owners are going to want that salary cap. They've always wanted it, and they'll point to this World Series. You got the top payroll team and then the fifth payroll team, and you can't compete with those guys in to get to a World Series. But wouldn't you say that the diversity of teams that have won the World Series in the last dozen years kind of speaks to some parity here and the elimination of that argument?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really complicated and very complicated to unpack in just a couple of minutes. So there are a couple things that you have to accept as being true. Is there a great revenue disparity between the Dodgers and, say, the Brewers, who are the smallest market? Yes, 100%, full stop, right? They're in the second largest market. They have an international superstar, which any team could have signed, right? And they have been able to fully actualize more money by being able to take advantage of that. Whereas Milwaukee's just going to have fewer opportunities because they're in the smallest media market, right? So those things are absolutely both true. Is the idea that there is payroll disparity between the teams solely because of the revenue disparity? No, I don't think that that's true at all. And I think that there are plenty of teams that are not spending at the means that they could, and specifically the ones at the bottom of the barrel, right? Like, as much as Pirates, I don't think that there's any fan base that has screamed louder and longer, or any media group that has screamed louder and longer for a salary cap than the Pirates and their fan base. The problem is, if you get a salary cap for Pittsburgh, is that they still have the same owner who doesn't seem to be willing to invest a nickel into adding players who would actually help to push them over the top. You guys saw a lot of Pirates this year. That's a win now pitching staff. That is mismanagement of the highest level to not support that with a better roster, to support it with position players that actually could help them win, if the goal is to win. I think the other thing is that the nature of baseball leads itself to more randomness, and especially in short series. You know, Bernie, you and I go back about the same length in like the old baseball prospectus stuff, right? And we always talk about how luck plays a disproportionate factor in the postseason. Well, that's true. And so this postseason format, I actually think is really fair. And the commissioner said this too, for the smaller market teams, because you get a chance to win, right? Like all you have to do is win series. And we're not going to be at a spot, unless we're going to make every round a best of 75. And there is some statistical backing for that, where it's the NBA and 80% of the favorites win. So I think that that's helpful as well. But this, past this prologue, right? Everything that's coming out now is the same discussion that was had in the mid-90s and into the first part of the Yankees dynasty in the late 90s and early 2000s. And I don't believe any of it. The sky is not falling, nor is the system perfect.
Mike, you again, man, your veteran eye and ability to observe things, but you got to explain something to me. How can a team with a $400 million plus payroll not have a bullpen?
Especially when they spent all that money on the bullpen. Like, that's the best part of it, right?
I know, right?
It's like they spent, like, I don't know if you remember, who was it? Like, Ken Rosenthal, or was it Jeff Passan that wrote this summer about how the Tanner Scott signing was the one that sent everybody over the edge with the Dodgers because they gave him $72 million, right? The Cubs missed out on him by like $6 million. Tanner Scott's not even on the World Series roster. And I get some of it is because he had a medical procedure, but he also wasn't pitching well this year, right? So, yeah, I do think that that's really funny that here they spent all this money on Kirby Yates and Tanner Scott and bringing back Blake Trinan, and like, they're in these biggest spots and they're counting on Jack Dreyer, who is an undrafted free agent out of Iowa, right? Like, I find it amusing. I don't think it's from a lack of effort. I think the fact that they do have guys like Dreyer and Enriquez and Wrobleski speaks to how good they are at developing pitching in that organization, and some of the depth they're just not experienced. And they kind of ended up in a spot where I could imagine going into the year, you would have told them it would have played out this way, where you've invested in all this elite starting pitching that has injury histories, and you've invested in all these relievers that have injury histories, and it's only the starters that are healthy at the end of the year, not the relievers. My guess is that was not on the Andrew Friedman bigger.
Mike Farron is with us. If the phone is still working, we have one last question for you. If not, we're going to say goodbye. But Albert Pujols had a 9.5-hour meeting apparently with the Padres the other day. Still potentially their manager. Is that who's going to get the job?
I can't, and yes, I don't have to feel that. But I think that Albert is legitimate candidate there. It needs to happen in a 9.5-hour meeting.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're losing
Mike.
9-minute
meeting's too much.
Oh, there he is.
Okay,
Mike, yeah. So we appreciate you. Thank you for being with us. We're running out of time. The reception's no good. It's not your fault. We love you anyway.
Yes.
And you said Albert Pujols should be the manager of the Padres and the Cardinals and every other team in baseball. That's what I heard.
Albert will be the manager for every team in baseball very soon. It's going to be super exciting.
Thank you, Mike Farron.
All right, guys. Take care.
Mike with MLB Network Radio here. He's awesome. Love talking baseball with him. Love talking baseball with Bernie Miklasz. And Bernie, I love it when you tell us all about our friends at Saliga.
Well, that's nice of you to say, and I'm proud to represent Saliga Heating and Cooling, a proud family business that's been taking care of St. Louisans since 1927, nearly 100 years. They've been taking care of us for 17 years, so I think I'm qualified to speak about them. Dan Saliga is the fourth owner-operator of this proud family business, and the same impeccable, highest standards are still in place. And the Saliga family, what we have discovered many times through the years is that you can count on their integrity 100%. Their knowledge, their professionalism, the class when they come into your home, their reliability. They will always look for ways to save you money if you need to fix something in your home with heating or cooling. They're not going to try to talk you into something more expensive or to sell you something or to upsell you or just generally hustle you. No. They want your business. They want to keep you in their family, the Saliga family, in terms of that's the family you call for help. They don't want to lose you. So you will be treated with the utmost respect and integrity. And they also have the Priority Club. It's a maintenance program that is going to save you money because it extends the life of your equipment. And we have found with Saliga, that's absolutely the case. We have saved a lot of money through the years with that. Find out more about this great family business, Saliga Heating and Cooling, and you'll get the phone number by going to SaligaHeatingandCooling.com. Thank you.
The DGS Halloween show is back, and you can hear it first on Friday, October 31st, starting at 4 p.m. Hear all about their ghost hunting experience and all the thrills and chills the show experienced this year. And to check out the ghost adventures from the past 20 years, head to KMOX.com. Presented by Lore Wine and Spirits. Try Ghost Tequila today, the perfect spicy spirit to bring your Halloween celebrations to the next level.
Retiring soon? Get the information you need by joining Kyle Jones and Matt Allgeier of Fire Capital Management for your retirement highway, Sunday mornings at 9:30. Investment advisory services made available through Pine Ridge Advisors, LLC, registered investment advisors. Securities made available through AE Financial Services, LLC, member FINRA and SIPC.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. Ever wonder why Big Wireless wants you on an unlimited plan? They probably want you to cover the cost of those 20-somethings using all that data every month. But most people 50 and up like me only use 12 gigs or less. Don't get bamboozled by Big Wireless. Switch to Consumer Cellular. Our plans start at just $20, and we use the same towers as the big guys. Join the millions who choose something better, because if you're not using all that data, you're probably getting used.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM, visit consumercellular.com/fax or a store near you. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
Nobody had to tell your grandparents not to drive while using their typewriters. Why should it be any different for us kids and our cell phones? Distracted driving was the cause of more than 3,000 deaths in 2022. Come on, we're smarter than this. Let's put down the phones and focus on the roads. Drive safe, everybody.
Don't drive distracted. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
It's the Medicare Advantage annual enrollment period, and Humana knows not everyone has the same needs when picking a Medicare Advantage plan.
Now that I'm retired, I want to enjoy the life I've worked hard to build. So I want a plan that covers me when I'm traveling the country.
Humana has a plan for that.
As a veteran, I want a plan that fills in the gaps my VA coverage doesn't provide, like dental care.
Humana has a plan for that.
I feel good about my health. I just want care and coverage with predictable costs. No surprises.
Humana has a plan for that. With a Humana Medicare Advantage plan, you get coverage and benefits that focus on what matters most to you. Learn more at gethumana.com. Humana, a more human way to healthcare. Humana is a Medicare Advantage HMO and PPO organization with a Medicare contract. Enrollment in any Humana plan depends on contract renewal.
It's easy to feel apprehensive about getting screened for cancer or to just keep putting it off. But Siteman Cancer Center wants to remind you how important it is, especially after the age of 40. And they also want you to know how easy it is to get it done. GetScreenedNow.com has all the information you need on cancers like prostate, breast, colon, lung cancer. You can also find out your risk of disease by answering just a few simple questions. And then you can find one of the hundreds of screening locations in the area. Even if you're a little farther out, there is probably a place near you. You have heard this before, but catching cancer early dramatically increases the odds of a successful treatment, especially with so many cancers showing up earlier in life. So do not be intimidated. Siteman will make the process as simple as possible. GetScreenedNow.com. Do it for your family and friends who count on you. Do it for yourself. Visit GetScreenedNow.com.
Get ready for Thursday night football as the Ravens face the Dolphins.
Siteman Cancer Center game time 6:30. Siteman Cancer Center, national leaders in cancer.
The Ravens, the Dolphins on 104.1 FM KMOX.
All right, Bernie, before we get to a little Blues talk, because they've lost 5 in a row, there is one other managerial note that today we learn of. The Washington Nationals about to make Blake Butera their new manager for 2026. What is notable about Blake, first of all, he is the brother of Drew Butera, but also he's 33. So he will be the youngest manager since 1972. Frank Quilisi was 33 years old. Prior to that, Dave Bristol in 1966 with the Reds was 33 years old, and Blake Butera, 33 years old, the manager of the Washington Nationals, which I don't know how that makes me feel. I do know that when Andy Green got hired as the Padres manager years ago, and that was the first manager in my lifetime who was younger than me, that was the first time I really felt like, uh-oh, it's over. You know what I mean?
33. Yeah. Ali Marmol's an old man compared to that.
It's absolute craziness. But anyway, that is happening. It looks like he'll be the manager of the Nationals. It leaves now only the Braves, Padres, and Rockies jobs vacant because a bunch of other guys have already been named managers of their respective teams. So Blues have lost 5 straight games. They got Vancouver tonight at home, and we have talked about, my gosh, every bit of everything with them and what's been going on, and the goals against is just through the roof. They are the second worst in the NHL in giving up goals per game. James Hofer, who is usually a pretty good goaltender, has had a miserable season so far. And again, it's still very early. And I said this yesterday, that we're 12% of the way through the season. So it's, still a lot of runway here. Sorry about using runway. Still, there's a lot of time left in this season, obviously. But there's, it's not like nothing. Some time has passed here, and it's a little unfortunate where they are, Bernie. You just hope that starts to change tonight, because you don't want to let it get out of hand too much.
Jeremy Rutherford of The Athletic does such a great job covering the Blues. I mean, he just summed it up perfectly, his story yesterday. He just said the St. Louis Blues are broken, and they are. This isn't a case of like there's one thing wrong, couple things wrong. Just about every aspect of their play is bad. It's poor. The goaltending is the worst in the league, going by save percentage. You have five or six of their top forwards doing nothing at even strength or 5-on-5. You have defensemen getting lost in the ice, not where they should be. They're disorganized. I could just go on and on and on. The special teams aren't great. They can't win at home. And so it's a situation where a little tweak here, a little tweak there is not going to resolve it. They got plenty of time to resolve it. It's 72 games left. But this is only the 16th time in 58 seasons of Blues hockey where they won 3 or fewer games in their first 10 games of a season. The previous 15, the good news there is that 10 recovered to make the playoffs, including the Stanley Cup winning Blues. So that I only offer that not as any kind of like false optimism, but just to show you when Ranji and Miklas and everybody says it's a long season. Yeah, it's a long season. We've seen other Blues teams get off the horrible starts and recover to make the playoffs and even win a Stanley Cup. So yeah. I'd like to see some of these broken pieces get fixed soon, though, right?
You're right, and that could happen. They may well pick it up just in time. I just don't want to keep playing around with that. You know what I mean? I just don't want to have to do this every year where they need to go on some sort of miracle run in the second half. Hey, Bernie, we'll do it again next week. I know you are on Rush Hour Sports tomorrow, so we'll be listening into that, and then we will talk to you on Tuesday of next week.
Raj, always love being with you, pal. Take care.
You too, my friend. Bernie Miklas, Chris Ranji on the Gashouse Gang. This show back tomorrow. Mike Claiborne and me. Tomorrow afternoon, starting at 12 o'clock, Gashouse Gang on KMOX. Dave Glover is next.